Welcome to episode 183 of the Concealed Taco Dudes podcast. Yeehaw!
All right.
We have a very special topic that I think will interest everybody, so look forward to that. But before we do that, let's knock out our sponsors.
NOE Bullet Molds at noebulletmolds.com. Use coupon code FLT001 and it'll save you a few bucks. I just bought like a ton of powder there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, literally
Nice.
2,000 pounds.
Holy
No,
moly.
I'm just kidding, if you would have seen...
I didn't see a semi out there.
Yeah, I had to haul it in a larger box, though.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting... It was a lot of pounds of powder, at least 15, 20.
Nice.
So, yeah, that was...
Still, you have to be local to
You have
buy
to be
it.
local to buy that, so
You have
sorry,
to
guys.
be present to buy it. You
But
don't sell it online.
I think the prices lately, powder prices have gone up, but he has his prices kind of low, and if you use the coupon code, it makes it even lower. So I figured I'd stock up on some powder. But and then also for you local guys, just so you know, Al he's gotten in some lead alloy. He hasn't listed it on the website. So if you're looking for lead and you're local, you can head on in. Call Al though first and make sure.
Yeah.
But it's not listed on the website, but he has it. So
Okay. Good
yeah.
to know.
NOE Bullet Molds, finest bullet mold makers on the planet, but I think we've already said
On the universe.
On the universe, on top of the universe.
Awesome. And Utah Air Guns at utahairguns.com. The finest purveyors of air guns and the accoutrements.
Wow, that's a good word. Accoutrements, huh?
Yeah. I'm going to have to look up, make sure I use that right.
Yeah, I probably would have said accessories.
Yeah. I'm a little fancier than
Yeah. If Stan was here, he'd probably know another fancy word.
you. Yeah. But go check out Utah Air Guns. They have got... Have you been down there recently?
Let's see.
They have so much inventory.
I think not super recently. I've been chatting with...
There are pallets of guns everywhere.
Oh, yeah?
Like on the showroom, everywhere.
Oh, jeez.
So go order something because they need the space.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I've been chatting with Travis, and I think I mentioned it last episode, that I'm not looking at getting a new air gun at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the King to come out with the polymer stock.
Right.
Because I just don't really like those wood stocks
Right.
and the European grips that they have.
Sure.
And the fact that I use it to kill stuff outdoors and in the mountains and whatever,
Yeah.
then I want mine to be a little bit more, I don't know, I guess less fancy wood,
Yeah.
and be more practical, where I could put a sling on it and, carry it while I'm hiking up some boulders and stuff. So
Okay.
that's what I'm going to do. I was going to say, I think I'm going to pick up one of those bottle clamps for my crown, and then, because I've heard of people drilling the stock and putting a little stud in there and having it fall out, but the last thing you want to do is have it fall out and have your gun
Hit the ground.
hit one of those sharp boulders that,
Oh, yeah.
when you're hiking up, and that would be it'd be dangerous, but it'd also be sad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm thinking about getting the bottle clamp, figuring out a way to rig a sling on it, and then also I'm looking at maybe getting one of the portable air compressors.
Oh, yeah. You talked about
Yeah, I love having the big tanks, like the 9-liter tanks to fill up the guns, because it's like an instant fill. Mm-hmm. Instead of having to wait, 5 to 20 minutes depending on your gun and the pump.
Right.
But I feel like getting one of those little compressors is going to be handy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'll be able to get it in time for my Labor Day extravaganza, but
Yeah.
isn't that the holiday coming up?
Yeah, I think so.
I get all those mixed
Yeah.
up. I just know if I have a day off or not.
It's
so.
Labor Day or Memorial Day. They're kind of
One
the
of
same.
those, yeah.
Same holiday, but on different days.
Except, why is one called Labor Day and we don't work on it? Work on the day, yeah. So
who knows?
I was down in Venezuela, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, this was a long time ago.
Sure.
Before it was as full of turmoil as
Yeah.
it is now. It still was kind of crazy and sketchy. But I started making fun of the people because they're like El Dia de Trabajo, and it's like it's like, you guys have a day of work and you don't work? That's so dumb. You guys are so silly. And they're like, well, I think we got the holiday from you guys. I'm like, what? And then I was like, oh, Labor Day, a day of work that we don't work.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, I had to eat my words that day.
That's funny.
But anyways,
So,
Utah Air Guns.
Speaking of stocks, if you own a Air Force gun, the Talon P, or what's the one that you had? Can't remember the model now. It's just like a big Talon.
Yeah, it's like the more powerful one.
Yeah, but if you have one of those and you have a Concealment Solutions Air Force airgun stock, you can put on the butt plate of the stock, the bottom screw, you can replace it with a stud, a swivel stud for a sling, and then take your handguard off. When you take the handguard off and you look on the inside, there's a little dimple on the inside.
Oh, for drilling?
And you can drill that and put another stud in, and then you have perfect sling mounts for your Air Force air gun.
That's what I wish I had on my crown.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. I'm usually pretty good at rigging stuff up.
Sure.
So
anyway, go check out Utah Air Guns. When you order something, use the coupon code AirCandy. You'll get free shipping and free turret stickers.
yes.
Black Ice Coatings at blackicecoatings.com. Finest gun finishes and whatever you want to finish. Really, they'll Cerakote, Hydro Dip, Teflon coat, whatever you want.
Yep. And even if you can get the Jason special and just say, hey, I want a Krylon.
Yeah. I don't own anything that's Kryloned anymore.
Anymore. I don't think I've ever hit any of my guns with Krylon.
I had an AK that had zero finish on it, and I spray painted it, and it looked awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure it looked awesome.
It did.
I'm sure it did.
Even Carl, who I bought it from, after I showed it to him, he's like, dang, I shouldn't have sold that to you. That looks good. He did.
I don't know
It's
about
an
that.
AK. It can be a little rough. It's supposed to be a little rough. You want to know?
You know what would have
who
been
else?
nice is a clear coat finish on it,
Nah.
so you get the rustic look.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah. But you know where I got the idea? From Daniel Shaw. For those of you who've been listening to the podcast
For a long time.
Daniel Shaw was a Marine that had a podcast for a while. I can't remember what it was called now. I have a patch that has it on it. Anyway,
it's been a while.
he Kryloned all his stuff. His ARs that he used for duty and everything.
Yeah.
He's like, it's great. You get a scratch, you just spray more paint on it. It's good to go.
I guess that's one way to do it.
Anyway, it's all in what you're trying to accomplish. But if you want it done right, take it to Black Ice Coatings and tell them you want it slickery. Magholder@magholder.com. Horizontal mag carriers and other stuff. He's also got, I don't know if they're on the same website or if it's a different website, but he has another business. These, I guess we'll call them like a reactive target.
Oh, yeah.
They're these little they're flat cardboard boxes that are filled with colored chalk. And so when you hit them,
it poofs
you
out.
get a poof, and they're pretty inexpensive. They're kind of cool.
Yeah.
I
So I
can't
guess if
remember
you
what they're
can't do
called.
exploding targets,
Yeah.
but you want something to
Something
pop out.
especially if you're doing long distance stuff. You know, it sucks to try and have a spotting scope or something. You go, I think you hit it here, or you know.
If you're doing long range shooting, you're gonna have a spotting scope.
I know, but it's nice to get instant feedback, whether
Yeah.
you have a spotting scope or not. And if you can't afford to have a steel target out there, these are a decent alternative. So go check out Magholder at magholder.com. Use the code Get in the Van I Have Candy, and you'll save some money. I don't remember how much. Concealment Solutions at concealmentsolutions.com. Your one-stop holster shop. Also, if you haven't been on there lately, you need to go check out the knives. We have quite a large knife selection now.
You're wearing one right now.
I am. Actually, I have two on right now.
Oh. Ooh, a horizontal knife carrier.
Exactly. that one's anyway.
Did I steal your thunder?
No.
Were you gonna announce that?
No.
Can I see it? Okay, so that's cool. That's kind of nifty.
So I've been making. So this is one of the Eric Fritz knives, which I have one left that's available on the website. They are 50-100 high carbon ball bearing steel, perfect size. They come with a concealment solutions sheath that mounts horizontally. I carry mine set up for a left-handed draw, and I carry it kind of in the appendix position, more on the right side of, just to the right of my belt buckle. And the reason I have it set up that way is it's kind of a secondary defensive tool. So if somebody sees that you're carrying and is going for your gun, you get your right hand on theirs if they're on your gun trying to get it out, and then you draw your knife and start poking them.
Right in the ribs.
Or the eyes.
Or the eyes. Or the ears.
Yeah. So...
give them extra holes.
But I'm also wearing around my neck a rugged Mountain Blades neck knife. And these are absolutely gorgeous Damascus steel.
Yeah.
Total minimalist. No handle scales or anything like that. But
do you have them on pictures of it on your Instagram?
I have 4 of those that are
on
available on the website. Yeah,
they're a little bit higher dollar.
They are, as well as the Fritz knife. So I've got some high dollar, custom made stuff like that from Rugged Mountain Blades and Eric Fritz. And then, as always, we've got the BPS stuff. I'm getting a little low on inventory with that, so we're going to have to reorder here soon. But those are still available with the ferro rods and all that. And then I have a line of folders now that are from Utah Knife Works. And they're pretty slick. They all actuate on ceramic ball bearings, so they're super smooth. Most people think they're automatics when they open them, but they're not. They're pretty slick, and I really like those. And those are pretty bargain priced at $50 or $80. I have 3 different Damascus ones that are $80. So
that's cool.
Go check them out and use the code SHOWMETHECANDY and you'll save 15% off of your order.
Nice.
All right. I have some feedback. This comes from Mike. He says, I was listening to the latest podcast this morning while exercising and heard you mention your trip to Arkansas and the Daisy Museum. He said, I am a food animal veterinarian and I have a Benjamin Sheridan air rifle that I use that shoots darts of different lengths and volumes. I use it to sedate or treat with antibiotics wild cattle and bison that cannot be corralled and placed in a chute. It is very fun to watch the dart leave the barrel and arc toward the animal. Last animal I hunted, in quotes, was a huge bull that jumped the corral fence and ran through a neighbor's alfalfa field and orchard. I snuck up on him and hit him with the sedative dart. In about 20 minutes, he laid down and we were able to put ropes on his feet and drag him into a trailer. So that's pretty cool. When we were at the Daisy Airgun Museum, they had this prototype air gun that shot darts that they were using to immunize animals cool. And stuff like that. And so he heard that. He was like, hey, I use that same type of thing with
air guns.
Yeah, in his Benjamin shots. Air gun. So yeah, a wild bull that's tearing up somebody's field because it got out of his pen, and yeah, so that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, Mike.
All right.
You wanted to do the news?
Okay, I have a couple listener feedbacks also.
Awesome.
All right, so first we have from Jim R, and he says, just listening at work, love the show, except for the show me state hate. Besides the humidity, cold, St. Louis and Kansas City it's a great place. Thanks for the show.
So he's in Missouri.
Yeah, the misery.
In misery.
Yeah, that's funny. And then Glenn D, he gave us some emojis of like thumbs up, hang 10, like smiley, wink wink or something. So thanks.
Okay.
And then G Gold, he wrote and said, "You're welcome for the sign. Thank you for the bunny farts."
the sign.
I think he's referring to the sign, the handwritten sign.
When you were driving.
Yeah. You're supposed to send us an email so we can send you something.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to also mention what vehicle you were driving so we can verify that it was actually
really you.
Yes. So.
Could be a pretender.
A pretender, yeah. All right. Okay.
Cool. Okay. News. It's the making of a nightmare. But when a local veteran woke up recently, it was his terrifying reality.
Ooh, nightmare and reality.
So, I'm going to preface this story with the opening line is terrific. The rest of it is really terribly written. And I don't understand how these people are journalists.
Yeah.
But the story is worth suffering through the writing.
Okay, let's go.
Danny Ricketts says a person with a knife tried to get into his window, but he was also armed. Ricketts says he grabbed the gun from his nightstand, shot the intruder, and then called police. Sounds like an appropriate sequence of events. When police got to his apartment near San Mateo and Zuni early Monday morning, they found the intruder down the street. Ricketts wishes it was all a bad dream. I looked at the window and I didn't see any blood and I didn't see any bodies, so I thought I missed initially and I was kind of grateful at that, said Ricketts. He woke up early in the morning to his bedroom window slamming. I could see it was a knife sticking under the window, sort of wiggling back and forth, and the window was coming up, said Ricketts. With his PTSD, the Vietnam War veteran keeps a weapon close by. Not sure that's a good mix.
Yeah. Not saying that veterans shouldn't have weapons. It's just that
if
the way they phrase that.
Yeah.
Because of PTSD, he keeps a weapon nearby.
Yeah. I think because he has war experience and he knows how to handle himself, he has a gun nearby.
He has a gun nearby.
Not that I'm screwed up from my war experience, so I'm going to keep a gun close. That doesn't make... Yeah. Again, like I said, the writing lacks a little. I keep a pistol on my nightstand under a hat. I reached and got it, and I said... I still don't know quite what I said. And he says, "What are you doing? Get the hell away from here." Something like that, said Ricketts. Then he fired one round and the person took off. This is where I don't understand, but he says, "This was folded in such a way the bullet went through 3 layers at first." That sentence doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, police haven't released the suspect's name, but surveillance video from a neighbor shows him running by after the shooting. Ricketts called 911, but the intruder later died in the street. When I was in the police car, I could see in the distance the body, and I asked the detective if it was the body of the person I shot, and they said yeah, and I felt kind of bad, Ricketts said.
Yeah.
That's appropriate. So police say, as of now, Ricketts is justified in the shooting. Sounds like this gentleman the other day he called police. He secured his firearm, I believe. He told them exactly what happened, said the ADP spokesman Gilbert Gallegos. KOB4 saw another example of this in late March when police say Joseph Rivera broke into Anissa Tinnan's Albuquerque home. She was there with her 4-year-old granddaughter. She called the police but took matters into her own hands. Gallegos says, while they can't tell you what to do if you're in a similar situation, they can tell you what not to do. We've seen instances too where people may have felt a fear, but... This is
the bad writing.
Yes. Where people may have felt a fear, but, and then they go chasing the individual.
Spell checker, come on, grammar checker.
And continue to shoot at them. That's where it really gets pretty questionable as to whether you're defending your life at that point, said Gallegos, and he is not incorrect there.
Yeah.
You can protect yourself if there's a fear of harm or protect somebody else. You can't protect your property by using deadly force. Gallegos says APD is currently investigating 5 other homicides in the city that are looking justified as well. Albuquerque is a rough place.
Yeah.
I have a customer who owns a security company. and they had an office in Albuquerque. And Albuquerque was so out of control that he shut down his office in Albuquerque. He's like, I don't want anything to do with that place anymore. Just too many. He's like, I could lay in bed at night and I could just hear people shooting at each other.
Oh, jeez.
He's like, yeah, I'm going somewhere else. I don't need to be here anymore. So they shut down the Albuquerque office. If you live in Albuquerque, you can tell us. Apparently, we like to bash on people's cities, so.
Yeah.
Albuquerque sucks.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we have in the news. We want to hit what we did with guns.
I think for time's sake.
I have something I got to talk about.
Okay, what'd you do?
So, for whatever reason, for the last 2 days, I have been dealing with nothing but holster emergencies. I didn't think there ever was such a thing, but I've had 6 people in the last day and a half that I've had to bang out holsters like in hours for them. First one was a guy. These 2 guys show up, and obviously they look law enforcement or ex-military or whatever. And the one guy says, "Hey, this guy just got into town for a SWAT competition, and he forgot his holster. He'd forgotten he'd taken his holster off his belt, and everything else is there but his holster." He's like, "We've been everywhere and we cannot find a holster for his gun. It's an M&P 2.0 with a Surefire X300, and he's left-handed." I'm like, no wonder you can't find one. Nobody's going to stock that. I'm like, even if it didn't have the light on it, you would have a hard time finding that. And he's like, "Can you help us out?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can help you out." I'm like, when do you need it by? And it's like noon, right? We need it before 7.
What?
And he wants a competition
style.
My racer, so it's a dual layer. It's a little more complex. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'll take care of you guys. And like, "Oh, you're awesome." And anyway, so got him taken care of. But literally, as they walk out the door, my phone rings, and this woman on the phone. My boss. I'm trying to find a holster for my boss. He just bought again another M&P, but it's a 10 millimeter.
Oh yeah.
But he bought it for this hunt that he's going on, and the problem is he's leaving Friday. He doesn't know what kind of holster he wants. He thinks he wants a drop leg, this, that. So we get on a 3-way, text thread, and anyway, long story short, I'm like, "Can you come in tomorrow? Just come into the shop in the morning. I'll come in early if I need to, so I can show you the options." Because I'm trying to tell him, you want a chest holster. You don't want the drop leg, because he's wearing a full backpack also. Yeah. And the buckle is going to be under the waist belt of the backpack. Not going to be comfortable. But he's like, "Well, but I have my bino case and this and that." I said, "I know. Just come in and you can bring all your gear." So he comes down, and this has happened multiple times. Okay, hunters, "Oh, that's going to be too busy and too many straps and da-da-da-da-da." I'm like, "Just come in and let's try it and see. If not, we'll come up with something completely custom I'll do for you to make it work for you."
Yeah.
So he comes in and he puts the chest harness on, and then he puts his bino case on over the top of it, puts his backpack on, and he's like, "Yeah, you're right, this is going to work." I'm like, I told you. But
yeah.
Anyway, so I start working on his so that he can have it for his thing, and my phone rings. This guy, "Hey, I'm a competitive shooter, and I have a really strange request." I'm like, "Okay, I get strange requests all the time. I have a match, or it's an IDPA Nationals match, and I'm leaving in the morning. My gun has to be under a certain weight for the category I'm shooting in, and with my Surefire light, it's too heavy. So I'm going right now to buy a Streamlight that's lighter, so I'll meet my weight parameters, but I don't have a holster for it. Can you help me?" And I'm like, "How soon can you get here?" I'm like, "And what gun do you have?" Yeah, I'm probably going to get the company name wrong. I've never even heard of one of these. Never seen one till yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it's a Lagos Alien. It's a $6,000 pistol.
Oh, jeez.
He's a sponsored shooter by the company.
Yeah.
It has a gas system really similar to an AR-15, and it's a 9mm pistol.
What?
It was cool. It is a cool gun. I posted pictures on my social media, so go check it out. Anyway, so he shows up, and he's like, I gotta have it, like, today, because I'm flying out early in the morning. So I'm like, okay. So I put together him another racer. But while I'm working on that, somebody comes into the showroom, I go over, it's the hunter's brother. Hey, my brother said I need to come down and check your stuff out. What did you make for him? And I tell him, and he did the same thing. He's like, oh, that's going to be too big. He's like, I got my binos out there. Can I bring him in? I'm like, yep, put it all on. And he's like, oh, yeah, this will work. And I'm like, let me guess. I'm like, you're going on the same hunt he is, aren't you? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I said, I'll knock one out in a few hours for you. So last 2 days, I have worked my butt off just to take care of all these guys.
Emergencies.
Yeah, with emergencies. But that alien pistol was really cool. If you listening, if you have one, if you shot one, if you know about them, I'd love your impressions on them. This guy loves it, thinks it's great, and so he hands it to me, and I'm like, all right, I'll shoot you a text as soon as it's ready. And I'm walking away, and I'm like, what do these run anyway? Because he's like, they've got shooters, I think they're made in the Czech Republic. But he's like, I think there's only 2 of us in the U.S. that are sponsored by him, and they've got people in other countries that are sponsored by him. And he was talking about holsters, and I'm like, I'll make their holsters for him. I said, they just got to get me a gun. I'm like, what do these guns go for? He's like, $6,000.
Oh, jeez.
Like, oh, well, maybe they could have a blue gun made and send that to me. But, so, anyway, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
But anyway, the main topic coming up is Strange Tactical, local company here.
Strange Gunsmithing?
They've changed.
They changed
to Strange Tactical.
Okay.
So, but they are building their own 1911s.
Okay.
And other stuff. They're doing some really cool things. I won't spoil it.
All right.
You guys can just listen and give us some feedback on what you think.
All right. And now, our topic.
Okay, we are here at Strange Gunsmithing in Orem, Utah, with Mike and Kathy Strange, thus the name Strange Gunsmithing. I drove by this place for months. Well, that is the weirdest name. I wonder what Strange Gunsmithing is. Are they building just goofy stuff, and that's why that's the name? Makes sense now.
Yep.
So, thank you for letting me come and take some time at your shop. We've been trying to do this for the better part of a year, I think. And schedules just couldn't ever mesh up, and it just was never the right time. But we are here today, and I'm excited to dig into not just what you guys are doing with guns here, but the business aspect, how you got started, why you're doing what you're doing, why you're doing the way you're doing it, and stuff like that. So, why don't you guys introduce yourselves just briefly?
Well, I'm Michael Strange. Go by Mike or whatever you want to call me. But I've been in the gunsmithing business. First time around was when I was 19, and
oh wow!
And then was only into it for about a year and a half at that point. And, and then here about 9 years ago, we decided to get back into it, kind of heavy. So
I would say so.
Yeah. This you don't envision this place when you think of a gunsmith shop.
There's a little bit of a commitment here.
Yes, a small one.
Yeah. Okay.
And this was my introduction into gun business. And so I was raised on a ranch. Of course, I was familiar with firearms, but he came home from his IT job one day and said, I think I'm going to go into gunsmithing. I said, knock yourself out, go for it. And lo and behold, now I'm in the back office and doing all of the ATF stuff and the finance aspect of it.
Nice.
Yep. Keeps us legal.
Yep, that's an important part of this business. Good. So, curious.
Yes.
I know when I started Concealment Solutions, it was a total side gig, and I had no intentions of making it a full-time job. It was kind of, this is this is fun. People always ask me, well, how'd you get started in this? And it's because I was too cheap to buy a holster when I started carrying, and I have an illness where I look at things and I go, well, I can make that. And sometimes I can. And sometimes I reinvent the wheel and realize the original reel's a whole lot better than what I made.
Right.
Fortunately, with the holsters, it was like, hey, I can do this and I can make good stuff. So I thought in my mind, this is cool. If, I had a little shop behind my house that I could work out of. This is fun. I like building stuff. I like working with my hands. People seem to like what I'm doing. If I can make a few extra bucks, keep me in ammo, maybe if it goes really good, I could buy a new gun every now and then.
Right.
That would be really cool. Those were my lofty aspirations with my business. And the timing was perfect where, Obama had just come into office. I was lucky enough to become associated with the guys at the Gun Dudes podcast who really catapulted my business, which was awesome. But it just took off. And within about 2 years, I looked at my wife and I was like, I'm making more money in the side business than I am at my regular job. I hate my regular job. I am working myself to death between these two things, so something's got to go. And she's like, oh, okay. And I said, I'm quitting my job. And she just went pale and panicked. And she was like, well, how many holsters do people really even carry that much? And And I'm like, well, we're going to find out. The funny thing is, years after that, anytime we were out in public and met a stranger, had a conversation, and they would ask me what I would do for a living, and I'd tell them, almost without exception, oh, that's really cool. I need a holster.
Awesome.
And I would just look over at her and I'd be like, there you go. We're also in a state where that's pretty common, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So that was kind of my experience and her reaction. I'm curious, was your reaction similar when he's like, this is what we're doing. We're selling everything and we're going all in this business?
Well, bless him. He kind of broke me into it as well.
He eased you into it?
Yeah, the IT position.
Mm-hmm.
And his best friend came out for dinner one time and said he's going to be great at gunsmithing.
Yeah.
He's a genius. And she says, but you're going to have to do the paperwork. And I said to her laughingly, do you not know me? I drink wine. I'm not good at paperwork. And she says, you need to get good at paperwork.
She's good at drinking wine.
I'm good at drinking wine. I'm really good at that. And so basically, I because I believe in Mike, I went ahead and dug in and started building some skills.
Nice.
And but he was still working his full-time job at the time, and things were getting weird politically. Things were getting weird in our country, and he came home one day and he says, honey, I think I need to make a stand. And yeah, my heart jumped into my throat, and I said, okay, let's do it. And so shortly after that, you left your job, and we went full-time, and then COVID hit, and that's kind of forced our hand to go retail.
Yeah.
And so, in the midst of that, of course, you always have personal things going on, not just business things. And so, rough business things, rough personal things, going on in that season. And so we just had a discussion over the dinner table one day, and he says, what do you think we should do? And I said, well, I don't really want to go get a full-time job. We can always get a job at Walmart, is what I told him. I said, you and I will be fine. We can always get a job at Walmart.
Yeah.
And I said, let's do it. Let's do it. And so we sold the house, and
wow.
we were all in.
That's a leap of faith.
Yes.
That's awesome. So you were gunsmithing out of your house
For a while, yes.
and how long were you doing that?
About 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we...
And I think there are probably more gunsmiths in this country working that way than any other way. They've got a little shop out behind the house, or they're working out of their garage or whatever, and they're good at what they do, but they're not invested like you guys are.
Oh, it was such a shock to the system because we were up in Heber at the time, and when we got set up, the city wouldn't let us set up anything in the garage because they didn't want you running a business out of a detached unit from your home. And we're like, well, it's part of the home.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't care about that. It was still considered part of the detached unit. And so we were limited
That's
to
interesting.
300 square feet. So we actually took a bedroom in the house.
Uh-huh.
And we converted that into a gun shop. So we had 300 square feet basically. And I don't want you to tell this to anybody, but we did put some equipment in the garage. I had a lathe in there. I had a mill in there.
Yeah.
But they never caught us on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, to go from that 300 square feet, and when we decided to sell the house, we had to find a new place to go.
Yeah.
And I always joke that, like the Beverly Hillbillies, we loaded up the truck and moved to Orem. Not Beverly Hills, but...
Not quite Beverly Hills.
But we came down here and we started just driving, watching ads, looking for a place to open a store.
Uh-huh.
And there was just nothing available. We looked at this place probably 3 or 4 times, and we're like, it's just too big. There's no way we're gonna.
This is a very big building.
Well, it's just under 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And so back then we just couldn't find anything else.
You couldn't imagine going from 300 square feet to 10,000.
I'll tell you what, I never thought I'd get enough stuff in. Well, we haven't really. I mean, as this type of a location should really be more retail centered. We're mainly gunsmithing. In fact, I don't know if you're aware of this. We're no longer Strange Gunsmithing.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. We had so many people coming in. Like the H&K rep, guys like that, people pulling in saying, nobody's going to stop in here to buy guns because you're a gunsmithing thing. Yeah. And he says, I wouldn't have stopped in if his son-in-law hadn't invited him in, this H&K guy. Yeah. And he said, I never would have stopped in here to try to do business with you guys. And one of our goals has always been, and I told Kathy, I says, one day we're going to have 5%, just 5% of the 2011 market. Mm-hmm. In order to hit that, we're going to have to make 30,000 guns a month. Wow. And
that's a lot.
So, yeah, but it's only 5% of that market, right? Yeah. And so we get going into that direction, and we pick the name Strange Gunsmithing. Well, that's not like Ruger Gunsmithing or Colt Gunsmith, Right. And so we decided, well, we'll change the name. We love the Strange thing, okay? Sure. I joke about having the best name in the world. Yeah. Because you put that in the front of any business. Oh, Strange Holsters. Yeah. Hey, there you go. Yeah. And like you said, you drive down the road, you see Strange Gunsmithing, you wonder what the heck is that place?
It's true. It's a name that sticks with you.
Yeah.
You don't forget it.
You don't forget it. I mean, it's a hell of a name to get raised with. Yeah. But once you get up there, nobody forgets who you are. Right. So that was a benefit to that. But we've changed the name to Strange Tactical. Okay. And it was quite the deal going through that. We found out we had to change our FFL license, which meant we had to shut down for a couple of weeks. And, oh, man, did the rumors fly. The rumors, Strange Gunsmithing's gone out of business,
I heard that rumor, and I went, really? Because I've been in there, and it doesn't seem like it.
We're still here, and so our goal right now has been we want to maintain that gunsmithing thing. Right. And originally that's what got me into this. And as Kathy was saying, having the job that I had. I mean, I've been a dishwasher, a chef. I managed a tire store for Savage Brothers up in Price, Utah, Emery Mining and stuff. Went from that into, I was basically a interim pastor for a while, Baptist preacher. Oh, nice. And of course, the natural move from that isn't to playing blackjack professionally. So I supported us for a couple of years playing blackjack, and in between there, I got into computers. And then I ended up as the IT director for a multi-billion-dollar company.
Oh, nice.
And making some pretty good money. I mean, I won't tell you how much, but it was 6 figures. Sure. I missed that.
I bet.
I'll just be honest with you. But I'd mentioned to you before we started the recording that, I'd gotten into this when I was 19 years old. Right. And I had a buddy. His name was Rick Hansen, and he was the one that was old enough to have an FFL license. I was only 19.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't do that. So we started a gun business. We were actually custom fitting shotguns for trap shooters and,
Okay.
and skeet shooters. And back then, they didn't have these fancy gray coils and things like that you could install, that you could adjust. So we'd literally go out with guys and set up targets. We'd tell them, just look where you want to hit, pull a trigger, pull a trigger. And we'd do that, pattern it. Then we cut the stocks
Oh,
to
wow.
the angle so that when they pull up,
It was
hit.
more natural.
Yeah. Now, I'm a dumb kid, right?
Yeah.
I have no idea that some of these shotguns are $5,000 or more, and I'm taking saws to them. I'm cutting these buggers up. I mean, we were very successful.
Yeah.
But had I known that then, I'll tell you, my first Holland and Holland that I touched, I'm like, okay, this is worth more than the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, let's not scratch this baby.
Yeah.
But Rick worked for Pepsi, and about a year into this, they moved him out of state.
Okay.
And I still wasn't old enough to get an
FFL.
FFL. So that's when I ended up going into the tire business and all this other stuff. And then about 9 years ago, I'm the IT director for this multi-billion-dollar company, and I'm one of them. I mean, they had like 300 companies,
Sure.
and each of those companies would have their own IT departments and
Yeah.
things like that. But I just, through all those jobs and things I've been through life, I hadn't had a chance to build a retirement.
Yeah.
And so I looked at Kathy and I
I'm
said,
familiar with that.
"Oh yeah." I says to Kathy, I says, "Honey, I know we've got this retirement stuff happening now, but it's not going to be enough to retire when I
Right.
come of age." And I says, "I think I want to go get my master gunsmithing certifications." And so I signed up through AGT,
Okay.
or AGI, the American Gunsmithing Institute, doing their courses and things like that.
And was this an online thing that you did, or was
well,
it?
it's they send out videos and things. The head instructor of it was Bob Dunlap, a real famous gunsmith and stuff. And the staff that they had, all kicked out videos and things like that. But you had the opportunity to go to Coquille, Oregon,
Okay.
and take some of the classes
In person.
live in person under Ken Brooks.
Oh, wow.
Who is, he's fantastic, this
Yeah.
guy. He still handles Pisco. That's the name of the gunsmithing company out there.
Okay.
But him and Bob, they went around, they helped people like Smith and Wesson and these guys
Sure.
with their design issues and things like that. And so it was quite fortunate. I liked it because they shipped you the DVDs, and if you were going through and doing something, you couldn't quite remember something, you could always go back
Yeah.
and get
That's
that.
nice.
And in fact, they have a thing that's called the Gunsmithing Club of America that anybody can sign up for. But they do the most incredible disassemble reassembly videos.
Oh.
And so there's like over 200 of those on specific firearms,
Okay.
which for me getting started was very helpful because they don't really focus on a specific weapon.
Yeah.
You'll get a couple, but they don't teach you how to tear down every single firearm.
Right.
You learn design, function, and repair.
Right.
And so pump action is pump action. Now they may
Right.
have different ways of accomplishing things,
Right.
but lever action's a lever action, a semi-auto.
Yeah.
Gas operated is gas operated.
Okay.
Piston. So you learned the system so that when you came across anything, you could figure it out.
Right.
And that's true. I've had stuff come in that like my first Browning 1919. I'd never been into one before.
Sure.
And when that came, it was easy to just figure out.
Yeah.
I repaired one for.
So even though each manufacturer has its own idiosyncrasies with that particular system, understanding the system in general gives you the knowledge base to open something up and go, okay, this is a little bit different here and here, but I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And because of that, there's sometimes you'll come across something that isn't quite designed well.
Yes.
And you're able to actually make that design a little better.
Oh, cool.
But to learn how to make parts.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a lot of armorers out there, guys who can swap parts, but you don't have guys who understand design, function, repair, and know if something breaks, there's a reason it broke.
Yep.
And you'll find sometimes they keep breaking.
Yep.
That's because you've not solved the problem.
Yep.
You've solved
You're looking
the
at the
symptom.
symptom. Yep.
So that was good to get in and to learn things
So
that way.
the way I'm seeing it is very much like an auto mechanic. So you've got the old school auto mechanic, right? Back before everything was plugged into a computer, and you had to diagnose things yourself, and you had to go in and figure out what was wrong and how to remedy the issue. Versus now, most mechanics, and this is a vast generalization, so if you're a mechanic, please don't be offended. But in my experience, it seems like with modern cars, you take it in, they plug their computer in. Computer's telling me to change this module, so they unplug it and plug in the new one. There, you're fixed.
Yep.
And sometimes it's fixed and sometimes it's not. And it's very frustrating. I've spent over $1,000 on one problem on one of my cars, and it wasn't fixed until years later when something else went, and it's like, oh, that was the original problem to begin with. Yeah. So I get what you're saying with all of that. But
And that's how I got back into the gunsmithing thing, was just the retirement issue.
yeah.
But I thought I was going to have till 67. I turned 62 this year, so I could have had the cushy job for another 5.
Yeah.
But like Kathy was saying, just watching the news and stuff.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe what the heck was going on in the country.
Yeah.
And I just looked at Kathy and I said, I think it's time to take a stand. And
It's good things are
that's
way
when we
better
stepped
now
up.
than they were then.
Yeah. Things have gotten so good.
That's sarcasm, in case
Yes.
you were wondering.
But that's how we got here and
Nice.
to this place. We started the business, and like she said, the house that we'd paid $280,000 for 6 years before was now worth $605.
Yeah.
And we thought, like I said, let's sell the place that we're going to move down to Beverly Hills
Yeah.
and open up a gun shop. And so here we are in Orem, and that's kind of how we got here. Things get real complicated after that, but
Sure.
real messy. Lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that didn't help us a whole lot.
Well,
so.
I spent most of my adult life most of my life, not just my adult life, working in retail.
Interesting.
And one of the guys that I worked for later in life was a motorcycle shop. And we were talking one day, and I said, yeah, I think it would be fun to own my own business someday. Not thinking about anything specific, but just, yeah, that would be kind of cool. And he looked at me and said, oh, yeah. He's like, owning your own business would be great if it weren't for the customers and the employees.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Well, now I understand that a whole lot more than I did then. And it's not that we hate customers and we hate employees, but that's where 90% of your problems come from. And I've been fortunate. I've had my kids work for me. My wife does our books and stuff like that. But I had one employee for a few years that would come in. He would press all my Kydex, and I was just assembling, cutting everything, shaping it, and doing that. He would come in. I would give him a list. These are the gun models, the lights that are on them, whatever, the holsters that, just go press Kydex for me. And then I could just finish everything. And it was great. We were cranking stuff out. It was nice. But it kind of took the fun out of having your own business and he was a good employee. I have no issues with him. He was good. He was honest. He was a hard worker. I learned stuff from him about building holsters, which is funny because he was in high school when he started working for me. But he was sharp. But it was like, well, now I feel like I have to get to work on time. And now I feel like I can't just leave when I want to.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a lazy business owner. If you look at the hours sign on the window of my shop, it's like Monday 9 to 5 unless the sun's shining. Tuesday 9 to 5, most of the time. Because and I should be better, especially now. I actually have a little retail store. It's about the size of this room that we're sitting in, but it's kind of cool. I have a display case with all the knives that I sell and everything, and some mannequins that are all decked out with my gear. So I should be better because I get a lot of walk-in traffic now. But having to keep a hard schedule isn't fun, and sometimes I gotta go ride my bike.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's just how I do business. I'm not saying it's the right way, but employees make that difficult. And you guys are a lot bigger. How many employees do you guys have currently?
Right now, we've got 6 gunsmiths.
Okay.
We're all kind of specialized. But,
Okay.
yeah, 6 of us.
That seems to be the way to do it, is get guys that this is your niche and you're going to
Yep.
take care of that, and that's good. That tells me, it kind of goes along with the saying, beware the guy with one gun who owns one gun, because he's going to be really, really good with it.
Yeah.
Same with the gunsmith, I would imagine. That's the gunsmith that knows 1911s, and that's their favorite. That's the guy you want to take your 1911 to.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
You know, not your lever action. So
That's right.
that's cool. So you sell everything. You're totally invested in this 10,000 square foot building. You've got some retail stuff out there. You have a huge space to fill.
Yeah.
You
Holy cow.
could have this packed full of retail stuff, and you don't so much. And I get it, because that's expensive. Overhead is expensive, and if you've never owned a business, you don't get it, because inventory sitting on your floor costs you money.
Yes.
Sitting there.
Yes.
So, you go into a place like Gunny's that is just, I think Gunny's is a great shop, but the thing I hate about Gunny's, it is so packed with
Got so much
stuff.
stuff.
It's just claustrophobic. And I look at that and I just go, I would hate to do inventory at this place.
Oh.
And the year-end taxes and everything based on your inventory and all that, that's just a nightmare. So I get why, and that's not what you're focused on. Your focus isn't the retail at all. It's a good thing to have, but that's your focus is on the gunsmithing, and so I totally understand why you're set up the way you are. And so you guys who are listening, if you're in the area and you come in and shelves are spread out and there's not a ton of retail stuff, that's why, because it's not the focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So what is the focus?
Well, we do, as you said, we have the gunsmithing side of things.
Right.
But right now, we're trying to get into that manufacturing side, like I was talking about the 1911s. And I was sitting here one day, and I had told Kathy years ago I want to have 5% of the 1911 market. And I looked over at her and I says, you know what, we're not even attempting.
Yeah.
I said, we're it's like saying I'm going to Hawaii and we're sitting in the driveway in the car and nobody's turned the key yet to even go to the airport. Or,
Yeah.
So we're not even moving in that direction.
Yeah.
So that's part of why the name changed. And we started doing this all pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
We've brought in a CNC machine. We are cutting our own double stack frames now. We're getting ready to start production on parts like grips and things like that for them as well. But the main thing for us that we're doing right at the moment is we're trying to get some 80%ers built. Now, this is one of the things that part of that taking the stand, right? Because you hear all this stuff out there about ghost guns. The government hates these ghost guns.
Yeah.
And that actually is what brought about the name of our frames. We call them entity frames.
Oh, cool.
And
Nice.
so we're joking around like the little 3-inch version for the officer. Casey, my son, he's the one that he handles our engraving, does a lot of our CNC work.
Okay.
He calls that frame the Casper.
Okay.
He wants to call the commander the Swayze, because he was in Ghost. So
I like it.
he's always trying to think of these fun names and stuff for him, but just kind of
Let's
a
stop
poke
taking
in the eye at
ourselves
the
so
government.
seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've had people come in for years. Since we've been in here at least the last 3 years. And do you teach build classes?
Yeah.
On that, and I'm like, I'd love to, but the thing about an 80%er, you're allowed to take that and make your own gun.
Right.
But you have to do it.
Right.
You can't use my equipment. You're not even supposed to let a friend help you.
Yeah.
You're supposed to build that gun yourself.
Yeah.
And so there's just no way I can teach
Yeah.
a build class.
Right.
And then here, last month it hits me. Why can't I cut those frames for them on the same equipment they would use?
Yeah.
Drill the holes. I'll turn it into a frame. Sure, I have to serialize that.
Right.
But why can't I then teach them how to build that gun? So Kathy
Yeah.
contacts the ATF and they're like, there's no problem with that.
Yeah.
So we went.
Because you're set up as a manufacturer,
Exactly.
your FFLs as a manufacturer. So yeah, there's no, as long as you're serializing it,
Right.
it's all good.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where you get so focused on
Yeah.
what you can or can't do that sometimes
Yeah.
you don't see outside of the box.
Yeah.
And it's like, what kind of an idiot am I?
Yeah.
I mean, I should know this stuff, but that's kind of moved us down this path now to where we're producing the 80% frames. In fact, we're going to be introducing these at the next gun show over in Spanish Fork.
Okay.
Here on the 24th and 25th of this month. But the hope is that guys will be able to buy these, build their own guns. To me, that's part of taking the stand.
Yeah.
And if we're able to give them the education. Now, this isn't an AR-15 build class. AR-15 classes, that's an assembly class.
Yep.
This we
It's
teach
snapping
you.
Legos together.
Oh, you bet. But you're going to learn slide to frame fit. You're going to learn barrel fit. You're going to learn
Nice.
extractor fit. You're going to do a trigger job.
Nice.
And we've done our first class. We had 3 guys come in, and they all loved their guns. I mean,
Yeah.
and they all did their own trigger jobs and all that kind of
So
stuff.
how long is your 1911 build class? What's the duration?
We want to get it down to 6 days.
Okay.
So I mean, it's an investment. Now,
Yeah.
the reason that we specified that amount of time is some guys will get it done in 3
Sure.
or 4. Wherever it is, you're able to at that point step back. But we don't want somebody who maybe hasn't had as much experience
Yeah.
doing that under a tight time frame, because they'll never get the gun built.
Yeah.
And we want them to be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But the things that you're going to learn will help you in other things. And one of the things I go across in the extractor class, and I don't know if I've told you this, but extractors have to do specific things. Okay? One of the things that you have to be able to do in a 1911 is kick the mag out, drop around into the chamber, hit your slide stop release, and it should go into battery. It should close around that round.
Yeah.
A lot of times that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And what's happening is the extractor hook, there's a flat part on top and then an angled part that's supposed to make contact with the rim, which causes the extractor to push away from the cartridge and then snap around. If it's not fit right, the flat part of the cartridge hits the flat part of the extractor.
Ah.
And so it thuds, it never goes into battery. And this became one of the stories they told us in our gunsmithing course. Little Bob, he talks about 2 guys that went fishing in Alaska. They've got their rifles on their backs, they're in the creek, they're fishing. Here comes this bear, and a guy grabs his rifle off, throws all of his bullets out the bottom of his gun. He's got one in, he shoots, racks the bolt back, he pulls out a cartridge and throws it into the chamber, and thud, thud, thud. It wouldn't close around it. If his buddy hadn't been there, the bear would have had some fun.
Oh gosh.
And so one of the things a gunsmith will do is we check to make sure that every gun does that. But I'll ask guys in the class, okay, so your friend calls you up and he says, I've got my 1911. If a mag's out of it and I throw it into the chamber, it won't go into battery. I said, what's their problem? And they'll always say the extractor. I say, great, what if it's his M1 carbine? They'll look at you funny, and then it's like, extractor? Yeah. Yeah, what if it's his Browning A-bolt rifle? Extractor? Yeah. The things that you learn on the 1911, trigger jobs, all that, they all apply to every other weapon.
Nice.
And so I tell them, when you're done with this course, you should be able to stand behind my counter. When people come in, explain to you a problem, you're going to have an idea of what's going on. You're not going to be able to fix it because you don't have that muscle memory yet.
Yeah.
But you're going to understand what's going on.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's we want it detailed, and those are the reasons that we want the class that detailed.
Yeah.
We're trying to prepare people for a time where maybe we're the only friends we have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You just never know. But having that knowledge and that skill set, because I don't think they'll ever take our guns away. They'll just make fixing them harder. You know?
And they'll keep trying, but I think you're right. I think I don't know. I don't want to say we're safe because you're never safe.
We're never safe.
but you're probably right. Okay, so what does, I was looking at your classes on your paper out there. I noticed there's different versions of the class. What do the classes cost, and what is included in those classes?
So the class itself is just $4.95.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what it is. You can bring your own kit
Okay.
if you've got one. It has to be serialized. The frame would have to be serialized.
Unless they have an 80% lower that they've already completed on their own.
But it'd have to be serialized.
While
Oh.
they're in our location.
Oh, okay.
And so
That's the tricky
kicker
part.
There you
for
go.
Us
Okay.
being involved.
I didn't.
And so
That
if-
makes sense, but I did not realize that.
and
So that's a
if
good
we wanted to build it
clarification.
in their home,
Then
and
they're
they invited
good.
Mike over.
Okay.
You know, if that was something, then Mike could stand back and say, okay, since I'm in your space, it doesn't have to be serialized. But when they bring it into my place, it has to be serialized. And so,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why they tell you becoming an FFL is the quickest way to become a felon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed.
Don't tell me.
Because there's little gray areas like that you need to be aware of. So that's good. That's good information. Okay, so the class is $4.99.
Yep.
And then let's say I want to build a Strange Tactical 1911 in my class. Then now what kind of costs are we talking?
We have out right now. We currently have 4 kits that we have priced out. We do a single stack 45 9mm.
Okay.
So you can do one of those. And the pricing on those is off the top of my head. That's around I think $580 for the 45 and $625 or something like that on the night. I'd have to pull that
so
out.
somewhere about $1,000 for the class and the kit.
on
On
the
that single stack 9mm.
And then the
Okay.
double stack itself, you're probably looking around 11 to 1200 depending on whether you're going with the double stack 45 or the double stack 9. The 45 is more expensive.
Sure.
Because a double stack 45 will hold 15 rounds.
Yeah.
But the mags we're currently bringing in range around $130 to $150 a piece.
Right.
Whereas the 9mm, we can run those Prodigy
The-
mags in them for around $50 a piece.
Right.
And so that's why you run into so much variation in it. The reason I'm a little sketchy on what the exact pricing is, originally the kits never come with mags.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even come with sights.
Okay.
But none of them come with mags. And then we got thinking, you know what? Somebody's going to walk out of here with the gun they've made themselves without a mag.
Yeah.
Okay, let's add some mags to it.
Sure.
And so we just last couple of days have made that change. And since Casey did that, I wasn't involved.
Yeah. Okay.
But you're in the ballpark with
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff. So
And so if somebody's interested, do you guys have a website that they can
Yes.
go to? What's your website?
it's strangetactical.com.
Okay.
And you can still get to it through strangegunsmithing.com.
That's a good
so
thing.
We've got both of those names are still in
They're
play.
attached. Okay.
And will be for a little while until we get everything completely
Sure.
moved over.
But somebody can jump on there and look
Yes,
at your
so the
classes.
classes
Can they
are-
sign up for the class online?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
and it's
Yeah.
got the scheduling pulled out there as well. So they
Awesome.
can pick their class session that they would work.
But they're really fun. I really enjoy the classes.
Yeah.
I mean, the 3 guys from the last one are already talking about getting together and go out shooting and stuff. You really build some camaraderie in there.
What's your limit? I imagine you have a cap.
Actually, that may or may not be true.
Okay.
I mean, right now we're just doing it in the room over here, and I can take 3 guys right now at a time.
Okay.
But we're going to start pursuing the AR stuff, which would be
Okay.
like a 1-day class.
Yeah. I used to do those, and they're fun.
We've got about 5,000 square feet out in the front half of the store.
Yeah.
4,000 something in this back half.
Uh-huh.
And we're thinking, we really don't have, like you said, a lot out there retail-wise. It's going to be mainly
Yeah.
frames and things, and
Sure.
the guns we make.
Right.
But we're thinking about really making that into an education area.
Okay.
And so
I
It's
noticed your gunsmithing counter that was at the back of the building last time I was here is now more or less in the middle of the building.
Yep.
And so you've got that. So you're going to incorporate that. Imagine put some benches and stuff in there and use that more as your build class.
Yeah. It'll
Great
basically
idea.
that expansion will be based off interest from the community.
Sure.
As they get more and more interested into it, I wouldn't mind actually seeing it because right now I do we do Monday through Saturday, and I do like a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday teaching. Okay, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It just depends on where the class is at.
So the 1911 class is basically it's going to carry over into a 2-week period, 3 days a week.
No, that the build part of it is the days I'm not doing the lecturing.
Oh, okay.
And so it'd be like the first class you come into, I'm going to do a small lecture thing. I'll show you how we cut that frame on the equipment that you're going to buy and use.
Oh.
And then we'll get into starting that fitting process.
Okay.
The next day we'll keep going until they get their slide and frame on. Then we discuss barrel fit.
Okay.
There's a lot tied to barrel fit.
Yeah.
Your accuracy and everything. The tighter things are, the more accurate the gun is.
Sure.
So you want your slides tight to your frames, or you'll get rocking back and forth and up and down as it's under recoil, which interferes with stuff.
So are you talking when you're talking about fitting the slide and the barreling? Are we talking like stone and stoning the finishes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I think that's awesome. So if I sign up for a class and, first class, how long are the classes each day?
Originally we did 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
2 hours. I've got to take it to at least 3.
Okay.
That first class did spill over into the next week. And a lot of that, too, was guys' schedules. And we try to be real flexible.
Sure.
If I say it's going to be from here to here, I'm not going to tie to that because the goal is to get you to the end.
Right.
And so if you need a couple extra days, we're going to do that, which is why I don't do like this week a class and then next week a class.
Yeah.
I'll do a class the following week, but it'll be a morning class.
You've got a buffer, so if you've got to carry over a little bit,
If we
to
spill
get
over,
some
we
people
spill
through.
over. Yeah.
Cool.
The main thing is to get to the place where you see that smile on the guy's face.
Right.
Because the first time he shoots it and he feels it, because they do feel different when they're fit right.
Yeah.
They all came back and bragged about how accurate that gun was that they made.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, next question I have. Do you have, or are you planning to have a 10 millimeter 1911?
We've built several.
Okay.
Yep.
I've become a fan of the 10 millimeter. I really like it.
Yeah, we've done some double stacks and some single stacks in that. And the other one that surprised me that people like, and I'll be honest with you, I'd never thought it shot a 38 Super. I never thought that they would, but oh my goodness, those things are fun to shoot.
There's not a lot of people out there that shoot that 38 Super, but the people that do rave about it.
I've got one gentleman that's come in and had me build him 3 so far.
Oh, wow.
And so he just loves those. But yeah.
One of our gunsmiths says that it's real popular down in the South.
I wonder why it's...
I have no idea, but he says it's
There.
really, really common at the last place that he gunsmith in Texas. And so he says you see a lot of 38 Supers down there, but you don't see as much here.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we built one for that guy, and the next thing I know, 3 of the gunsmiths in here are building their own 38 Supers. It was just that much fun to shoot. So, yeah, if you ever get it, well, next time we make one, I'll have to have you come down so you can shoot that.
I'll take you up on that.
It's just a little metal box back there, right?
Yeah.
It's more for function testing, not for accuracy. But,
Right.
But, yeah, we'll have to let you do that. I think you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I'm definitely up for that. So you do the 1911s in the 3 main frame sizes, right? Is it a 3-inch or 3 1/4 inch?
It's the 3 1/4.
3 1/4. Then there's the 4 1/4.
4 1/4.
And then a 5.
Yep.
And I'm noticing the ones sitting on the table all have full rails. Do you do one without a rail or is it just railed stuff?
We don't yet. I mean,
Okay.
right now they're all the full rail type, but we can do. I mean, it doesn't take much, right? You're just
milling off a little more material.
you're just milling off a little bit.
Yeah.
But we thought on the officer version, it's so hard to get a light mounted underneath, or a light laser combo underneath.
Yeah.
On this, it does fit.
Yeah.
And it looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm more and more just, I don't like stuff on my guns. My ARs are clean. I've got a red dot optic on my ARs. That's it. I don't put
It's so funny
simple.
how you go through stages where you need all the toys and
Yeah.
whatnot. I tend to be somebody who likes something simple too. I don't
Yeah.
want to mess with stuff.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but that 3.25 inch version there, that officer version, is built on a full size frame. I get tired of there not being a 3-inch version that a man can get his hands on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when you hold that,
Yeah.
it's the
Okay.
full size frame. The mags for that, it comes with a 20 round and a 26 round.
Oh, wow.
On the 3-inch. So all of these in the 9 mils come with the
Okay.
20 round and the 26 round.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. When somebody's buying these kits, is it all in the raw? Do they have a finish on them?
There's no finish.
Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, we just bring in like an arms core kit, something that's not the high end stuff.
Right.
We want to teach you on something that if you mess it up, you don't feel like.
So part of the
I just
class
blew
is
it.
putting a finish on the gun.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah. Well, as far as like the slides and stuff, we let them sandblast them, parkerize it.
Okay.
On the painting side of things, since the frames are out of aluminum, 770 or 7075 T6 aluminum, those are Cerakoted or Duracoated. We let them pick the color, but my guy
You guys
paints
do
that. Yeah. I
There's-
mean, the fumes
There's
and
some
the,
and there's some specialty.
Yeah.
You got to know what you're doing with
Yeah.
that. It's not like rattle can Krylon, spray it and you're good.
yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah, I noticed you have AR build classes listed. Do you have any of those scheduled yet?
Not yet. They're still
Developing.
Yeah, they're finalizing the pricing for the kits.
Okay.
We should know by the end of this week what
those
that's
will
going to
come
be.
with full. So basically, one price. You come in, you get instruction, and you get all the pieces and walk out with a new gun.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be an option. But if they had their own stuff,
Okay.
they could bring it in and then just be the price whatever they end up with on the class.
Okay.
Corey's finalizing that stuff right now. We're working with some people trying to get some final pricing on the kits themselves.
Okay.
But-
Are you planning to teach like trigger work on that? Because I know with ARs it's very different, like you said, than a 1911. It's really easy to just buy a nice trigger that you just drop in and push 2 pins in and you're done.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to take a stock trigger and do a fluff and buff or whatever and enhance it.
Yes.
And so that would be a cool aspect of that. I have a Geisley in my personal AR, and I've built a lot of ARs. I can't remember which one it was, but it might have been one that my daughter built. It had a lower parts kit that had what they called an enhanced trigger. So basically, the parts on the trigger were just kind of the fluffed and buffed and everything. And it wasn't as good as the Geisley. I'm not going to say that it was. But at the same time, when I look at this whole lower parts kit was like $40 that came with this trigger, and my Geisley trigger by itself was, I think, 200 and something. I was like, I don't know if I could justify spending that much more because that trigger doesn't feel bad. It's not as good, okay? It's all in what your end goal is and what you're willing to spend to get to that end goal. But being able to take a stock trigger and make it a whole lot nicer and smoother and everything, I think there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah, and there's a lot that you can do with a stock trigger.
Yeah.
One of the tricks, I mean, they tell you that you need to have 40 thousandths engagement on the full cock notch and the sear on those. I don't really pay a lot of attention to that rule.
Yeah.
I should.
Yeah.
I worry more about things like, so you've got a secondary sear on there, right? So as you pull the trigger and the hammer comes back, you've got the trigger held back. I should say, as it's recoiling, and the hammer gets pushed back. It locks into a secondary sear, which has to be a negative engagement. Okay, and we go over all that stuff in the class.
Right.
But as you release your finger, that sear leaves the hammer, and the hammer falls into the primary sear. Okay. Now, depending on when the secondary sear releases the hammer for it to fall into the primary will dictate how far the hammer is engaging the sear at that point, and then they slide together.
Right.
So what I do is I teach you how to modify that secondary sear so that it releases the hammer later so that it falls fully into the full cock notch. That way, as you're doing a trigger job, you begin to bob those sears and to polish that stuff up. You're at full engagement.
Okay.
That way you don't end up accidentally going full auto and all this stuff. The other thing that it does is a lot of the times in I don't want to call it a bad trigger, but let's just call it a bad trigger.
Sure.
As it falls from the secondary into the primary, it begins to chip away because it's not falling full depth into there. So it's hitting out at the edge, begins to round that, and you run into all kinds of problems where it just won't, it'll go full auto on you and stuff like that. So I'm a firm believer that you can take what most people would consider a piece of junk gun and turn it into a beautiful weapon.
Yeah.
You know, something that's accurate. It's all based off of what you do to it.
Yeah.
And like you're talking there on that, Lord, doing that to a trigger.
Yeah.
Hey, if you hate your trigger, you buy a 1911 and you spend $5,000 for it, you hate that trigger, you hate that gun.
Yeah.
And I tell guys all the time, go get yourself a Rock Island. Nothing against Rock Island.
Yeah.
Go get you one for $800.
But they're a budget 1911, and so they don't have the same fit and finish as a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 1911.
Exactly.
And they shouldn't for that price.
They can bring it into me, and for $295, I'll put some carved billet steel parts into that baby, polished up, and you will love that gun.
Yeah.
And so it's all about that. How can you make it shoot more accurate? How can you make it feel better in the hand?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And that's really what we do a lot of here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I had a customer, and I mentioned this on the last episode. I had a customer bring me it's a 2011 style 1911 that she shoots competition with, and she's talking and telling me about her STI, and she's talking about this and that, and then she pulls out a para-ordnance and says, "This is what I want you to build a competition holster for." And I was like, "You like this this para-ordnance over your STI?" She's like, "Oh yes." She didn't have an optic on it. She's running iron sights. She's like, "That gun just," she's like, "I've had it for so long." She's like, "I've put 30,000 rounds through it. I love that gun. That's the one I'm competing with."
Awesome.
So yeah, and but it's the same thing. And I don't know that she's had trigger work done on it. It was a good feeling trigger, but 30,000 rounds will do that also.
Yeah.
So, it's just like you said, just because a gun costs a lot doesn't mean you're going to love it the way you might something else, just based on how it's set up, what you're used to, what you like, and things like that. So it's cool that, you guys are set up to where you understand those things, and somebody can bring you something that they love. Maybe they inherited a 1911 from somebody, and it's just rough.
Yeah.
And they want to love it, but they can't. You guys can make it lovable.
Yes. And if they take a class, they can make it lovable.
Oh, even better.
You know what I mean?
So that leads me to another question. Do you have plans of doing any kind of more or less like a gunsmithing type of class? Like, say, I've already got a 1911, or I've already got, whatever, but I want to learn, I want to be able to take it down to all the nuts and bolts, do all the nice fit and finish that you're talking about, and make this sentimental turd into something that
is lovable.
Do you guys do anything like that, or have plans of doing something like that?
We actually used to do that on the 1911 side.
Okay.
A class that was just strictly tied to design function
Okay.
of it. And yes, we're I mean, I don't know how quickly this is going to happen. It's something that Kathy's just started digging into, but we're actually looking into trying to set something up for vets as well.
Okay.
So we've reached out to some government agencies to see if, there's a way that they could get involved and help our vets come in. Because we've had them come in the past.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to take somebody one-on-one.
Yeah.
Because,
It's expensive.
You wouldn't believe how much the rent is in a 10,000 square foot
can
place
imagine.
right on State Street.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about that is it's a very reasonable rate that he wants for this place, but
Yeah. Doesn't make it cheap.
it
though.
doesn't make it cheap. We charge $90 an hour on our repair side. It takes a lot of $90 repairs
Yeah.
to cover over $12,000 in overhead, right?
Yeah.
And so to stop and teach somebody one-on-one like that would kill us. So we're
Yeah.
trying to get set up to where it's something that we can do groups, get some people in. Or I started to talk about earlier, opening that up out there, and where I do my lecturing on Mondays and Wednesdays and Thursdays or Fridays, depending on the flow of the class, we could record that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And people would be able to come in anytime they wanted. Now, they would know that lecture night's going to be these nights, and they could come and always be there
Yeah.
at those specific times. And we could mix those up through different times of the day so that people who work different schedules and things could come in and make that stuff happen. That's really where my heart is. It's in the manufacturing, and it's in the teaching.
Yeah.
Having people know, like I keep saying, take that stand just in case something does happen.
Yeah.
So that we don't lose the ability to get these things repaired.
Yeah.
The old boys, the old timers are dying off.
Yep.
Like I said, we got a lot of armorers, a lot of part swappers.
Yep.
But if somebody quits making parts,
Yeah.
we can make parts if we have to.
Yeah.
You may not want to pay me to make you that part.
Yeah.
But if we have to, we can make the parts.
Well, and that's kind of, the gun industry is very much going in that direction that the auto industry has gone, where it's just kind of plug and play. And it's very cool to one aspect, like all the Glock clones out there. I love them. I think they're great because you can start off with something that's inexpensive and you can make it as fancy and crazy as you want, or as simple as you want. You can have spare parts sitting there waiting in case, right?
Yep.
And they're easy to swap out, and anybody can do it.
Yep.
And I think that is a good thing. I think being able to get into something that is a little more complicated, like a 1911, which is funny because when it was released, it was amazing how simple it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or some of the older semi-auto rifles and stuff like that. Being able to take an old, maybe a surplus World War II rifle, an M1 Garand or something like that has prestige, that maybe has issues, and being able to take it and make it a fully functional, reliable weapon again. That excites me, because I like taking old useless things and repurposing or refurbishing and making them useful again. That
Sound like my wife. She did that with me.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I love what you guys are doing here. I think it's awesome. I love what you're doing with the 1911 platform and we won't call them 2011s because somebody already coined that.
Yeah.
But they're the double stack 1911s. Very cool stuff. I think you're carving out a niche for yourself that others haven't.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's important. I can see a lot of people heading your way, especially with the double stacks, how popular they are in all the shooting games and competitions and stuff like that. Being able to build your own and understanding the mechanisms and the functionality inside and out, that can up your game for sure. So very cool.
We had the one guy that came into the class that is now building 3.
Yeah.
He says my boys all want one.
Nice.
And so he's building 3 for them.
Nice.
So it's pretty cool.
Nice. Well, tell us, what's the address here so anybody that's local will know exactly where to come?
We're at 170 South State Street in Orem, Utah.
Yep. Just south of Center Street in Orem.
Yep.
On the west side of State Street. What's the email, or not the email, but the website again?
It's strangegunsmithing.com or strangetactical.com. They both take you to the same place.
Awesome. Do you guys have an online store or just...
We do.
Okay.
Yep, you'll just click on the store tab and there you go.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. This has been super fun, and I just, like I said, I love what you guys are doing. If you are in Utah, come check out Strange Tactical. You won't be disappointed. Thanks for your time, Mike. And Kathy left us a little while ago. Thanks, Kathy, for setting everything up and getting us here.
All right, so that is the end.
Hope you enjoyed that. I really want to take one of the classes. 1911 build class.
That would be cool.
How cool would that be?
That would be cool.
And you end up with your own custom 1911. Super cool. And they're fantastic guns.
All right.
But anyway, thanks for listening.
Until next time, stay safe, have fun.
Go take somebody shooting and be nice to people.